What in the world did I just sit through? What did I just witness? I'm pretty sure I just had years shaved off the back end of my life. What a tough, ugly watch this game was, and on top of it, they lost. They lost.
Everyone anticipated a different kind of narrative when the Indiana Fever took the court against the Los Angeles Sparks on Saturday night. What began as a typical game swiftly devolved into yet another instance of WNBA referee ineptitude, and this time there was no denying the proof. At this point, the struggling Sparks defeated the Fever 89-87. However, the final score wasn't the true tale. It involved witnessing the referees disregard fundamental player safety while utterly disregarding Sophie Cunningham's face being seized in front of them.
Now here's the one thing with that last play that I'm speaking about. It seemed like they called it a loose ball foul at first, which would have been favorable for us because we have them in the bonus. Yeah, we were in the bonus with 5.5 minutes left to go. First time all season. I was shocked. We grabbed the rebound. Looked like they called it a loose ball foul. Yes, we could go to the free throw line. Oh, they changed it. Reset time.
This was not just another unsatisfactory officiating performance. The fact that Sophie Cunningham was practically dragged to the ground during what began as a 50-50 challenge and then had her face grabbed while the referees did nothing about it revealed systematic referee prejudice and all the issues with WNBA officiating.
The LA Sparks just got the spark versus the Fever for some reason, man. But the Sparks always have matched up well with the Fever since last season, man. Tough ending for the Fever girls. Just some missed free throws, some questionable shots. Could have got it, man. Close game. I ain't even mad. The intensity is there, man. This team, if they can keep up this intensity, it's going to be real nice when Caitlin Clark gets...
These same referees called a foul on Sydney Colson for a totally clean play in which she merely used her hands to grab the ball. The ridiculousness peaked when they were forced to debate Colson's lawful defensive play for about 5 minutes at the monitor, which should have been clear.
And the referees, let's just blame the referees and say, hey, but you called a loose ball foul. This was a game that we should have won. Again. And a game that we lost, unfortunately. 89-87, Los Angeles Sparks defeat
The inconsistency was astounding. Cunningham is tackled to the ground and has her face seized. When Colson executes a classic basketball play with just her hands on the ball, the officials appear to be watching paint dry, but all of a sudden they're on guard and prepared with their whistles. Even the presenters were unable to conceal their bewilderment at this absurd contradiction because the dishonesty was so obvious.
A disaster. This was a disaster. The Indiana Fever cannot keep losing to teams like the LA Sparks if they're supposed to be a good team. And Rickea Jackson, she just flat abused the Fever in the last 3 minutes of the game. Seriously, what?
If you find it entertaining, kindly subscribe. All season long, Sophie Cunningham has been the victim of constant criticism for defending her colleagues. When Caitlin Clark was being mauled by opponents, she was the player who stepped up, and she is now the one in need of protection, which the referees declined to offer. No foul was called despite the video from Saturday night showing Julie Van Loo grabbing Cunningham around the neck during what should have been a normal loose ball situation. The referees declared it a jump ball, as though making forceful contact with a player's face and neck was a typical aspect of basketball play.
Sydney Colson, man, shout out to her, dog. I can't overlook her. 6 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds with that intelligent block. Like it. 2 of 4 from the floor and then 2 of 3 from the 3. I mean, she was shooting like she was the scorer of the team. She put on her airy bag tonight.
The fact that we are discussing the same referee crew that spent an eternity at the monitor going over Sydney Colson's clean block on Rickea Jackson only serves to exacerbate this. Colson created an ideal defensive play with minimal ball contact. However, it took the referees 5 minutes of discussion to reverse their blatantly incorrect call after they had first deemed it a foul. These referees are so clueless that they have to contest such a blatant defensive play. This trend goes beyond poor officiating. Selective enforcement makes some players safe, while leaving others open to attack. Immediately after the referees grip Cunningham's face, they become selectively blind. However, Carlson is prepared to call the whistle before you can blink when he makes a clean defensive play. The Indiana Fever have struggled with this double standard throughout the season, and Saturday night was just the most obvious instance to date.
And we talk about this. We are circled on everybody's schedule. Everyone, no one likes us, right? So everyone in our locker room, that's the only type of people that we have that we can lean on, and we got to be better in that area. We have got to stay disciplined. We have to stay focused. We need to get consistent, and we got to lean on each other. And I think that we've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own islands, but as one of the leaders on the team, I got to do a better job of grouping people, right? In the fourth.
When you consider that the Fever lost to the Los Angeles Sparks, the absurdity reaches its zenith. One of the WNBA's worst teams this season, literally. With a 513 record going into the game, the Sparks had the second worst record in the league. This club has had a difficult season overall. However, the referees' refusal to call clear fouls and their phantom calls on clean plays were a major factor in their ability to overcome the Fever. For this game and all of those predictions stating the Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark was urgently needed, are better off without Clark, who has been shown to be utterly insane. The game made it clear that they were really missing their star. The Fever would have likely won this game easily if Clark had been fit and on the floor. Their best player is absent, and they must instead contend with their opponents and the referees. The Indiana Fever are currently at 99, but they are most likely 10 against the officials since they simply refuse to make any decisions that don't suit them. Every match turns into an uphill struggle in which they must defeat not only their rivals, but also institutionalized prejudice from officials who appear committed to making their life as challenging as possible. You can tell the system is flawed when your side must employ challenges on clear calls without any defense against violent plays. In the first quarter of the game, Sophie Cunningham was diving for a lost ball when Julie Van Loo grabbed her around the neck. The communication was direct, purposeful, and superfluous. Any capable referee would have recognized this as an apparent foul right away, with the possibility of escalation. Rather, these inept authorities pretended nothing had occurred and referred to it as a jump ball. The fact that they exhibited no regard for Cunningham's safety or well-being after she was grabbed around the neck is even more abhorrent. It is unfair to single out Sophie Cunningham, and it was incorrect to penalize Sydney Carlson for her clean block. The Fever had to contest an evidently strong defense after the referees ruled a foul on Cousin's lawful defensive action. These same officials then debated whether Carlson's textbook defensive play was legal for almost 5 minutes at the monitor. Consider the message this conveys. Take a player by the neck and face. No issue. Go ahead and play. Make a clean defensive play using the right strategy. That is a violation that calls for. It takes a few minutes to review the video properly. The ineptitude is so obvious that it almost qualifies as criminal negligence. Due to their selective application of the regulations, these referees are actually endangering the safety of the players.
They went with Lexi Hall in the starting lineup, and she was just trying to get charge calls all night, trying to get the charge calls because she was lacking with the size with Rakia Jackson. So I understood why she was doing it and trying to get Rakia in foul trouble. It was smart. But at the end of the day, that last play, you never flop and give the ref the game to call. You never flop in the clutch moment, man. I'm sorry. I did not.
It was sad for the Indiana Fevers to lose to the Sparks because they were playing a team they ought to have comfortably defeated. After this win, the Sparks' record dropped to 613, placing them among the league's poorest clubs. The Fever wanted to make a statement with this game, especially because they were playing at home without Caitlin Clark. Rather, it turned into yet another illustration of how poor officiating may drastically change a game's outcome. The fact that the game was so tight the entire time made this loss much more frustrating. Despite losing their star player and having to put up with terrible officiating, the Fever were still competing. With 23 points and 12 rebounds, Aaliyah Boston took the lead, and Natasha Howard put up another impressive showing with 21 points and 9 rebounds. Despite their best efforts, they were unable to overcome the combination of missing Clark and dealing with biased officiating.
Here, let's point out the obvious. A lot of people said it. We can officially Rest in peace. R.I.P. Undertaker. Tombstone pile driver. The theory that this team is better without Caitlin Clark. ESPN, you got your ears on? We can officially tombstone pile drive that BS. If you can't see how incredibly limited the Indiana Fever are on offense without CC, you're either not watching or you don't know what you're watching.
The pressure of playing shorthanded and battling the referees finally got to the Fever as they missed their last 5 shots, including 4 in the last minute. Those final seconds become much more challenging when you're always up against referees and opponents. When you are aware that the officials are not treating you fairly, every possession becomes more significant. This defeat aptly captures all of the issues with WNBA officiating and how it affects the league's competitive equilibrium. The Indiana Fever and other teams are under pressure to perform flawlessly while putting up with biased and inconsistent officiating, while opponents are allowed to get away with risky moves like grabbing players by the neck and face. The WNBA officiating standards have dropped to an all-time low with the Sophie Cunningham face grab incident. Officials have totally lost sight of their main duty, player safety, and fair play, when they spend 5 minutes discussing clean defensive plays while ignoring blatantly dangerous contact. The fact that Cunningham was able to laugh it off later and smile does not justify the other's inability to keep her safe.
Colson, 5 assists, no turnover. Colson, she played herself a good game. Michaela Timpson, 5 points, 1 block, really 2 blocks. I'm not sure why it's only talked about as 1. 6 rebounds. Michaela Timpson looked great today. Michaela Timpson looked pretty good today. I gotta be honest. 3 fouls in 12 minutes. Not what you would like to see. 1 foul was definitely...
Despite being punished several times for expressing the truth, Coach Stephanie White deserves praise for her persistent efforts to expose this systemic injustice. She gave another sobering reminder of the team's need for discipline following Saturday's defeat. However, the officials who still make fun of professional basketball need to be disciplined. The Indiana Fever will persist in persevering despite hardship, since that is the hallmark of teams of championship level. Although they have demonstrated that they are capable of competing without Caitlin Clark by winning the Commissioner's Cup and putting on strong performances, they shouldn't have must overcome referee bias in addition to their other challenges. This club will be a serious contender for the championship whenever Caitlin Clark recovers from her groin ailment. They've established the kind of camaraderie and defensive rigor that will help them advance far into the postseason. As the enforcer who defends her teammates when referees won't, Sophie Cunningham has played a pivotal role in that evolution. The WNBA must examine its officiating guidelines and accountability procedures closely. When referees are preoccupied with keeping things neat and disregard players' faces in danger. Defensive plays, they have fallen short of their most fundamental duties. Fans are beginning to detect the blatant prejudice influencing game results, and the league's reputation is on the line.
And also Howard. Howard was doing a big one too. 8 of 11 from the field, 21 points, had 4 turnovers. Have to take care of that ball, but 2 blocks, 1 steal, 3 assists, and 9 rebounds. Howard has been consistently giving us everything she got out there, man. So I have to give it to her. She's been giving us everything she got. So shout out to her. Yeah, they took care of the ball pretty well today.
The unpleasant reality of WNBA officiating was once again made public by the Indiana Fever's 89-87 loss to the Los Angeles Sparks. The Fever will not allow corrupt officiating to ruin their season, even if Sophie Cunningham was grabbed around the face with no repercussions and Sydney Colson had a clean defensive play that was initially deemed a foul. They have demonstrated the passion and tenacity that winning teams have. One thing is very evident as they proceed with a 99 record: bias deficiency will not be an ongoing problem for this Indiana Fever squad. They are creating something unique. This team will be prepared to take on anyone when Caitlin Clark is healthy again. Sophie Cunningham is ready to defend her teammates, and players like Sydney Colson are making clutch plays. Particularly once Clark recovers from his injury, the playoffs are still very much in sight. The Fever have shown that they are capable of competing with the top clubs in the league and winning important games. All they need is for the referees to perform their duties and safeguard every player equally, irrespective of which club they
play for.
Every game will be a struggle against the officials and opponents until that time. However, this Fever crew has demonstrated that they are prepared for every obstacle that may arise.
Somebody was saying earlier, and I took note of it, that when the Fever called a timeout at the very end of the game, did anybody know Stephanie White didn't draw up any plays? What are you doing exactly? What would you say it is that you do here? Question mark. The office, your office space. What would you say it is that you do here exactly?